Good morning and welcome into another edition of Let's Bet It. I'm Alex Glaze, joined this morning with the Lieutenant Colonel, Mark Zinno. Zinno, how's it going this morning?
We are giddy. It is almost Christmas morning. We get to tear open all of our presents as the tournament is just tomorrow, man. I'm excited. There's a lot of great games that are coming out.
The tournament started. What are you talking about? We had games last night.
Those don't count. They don't count. Thursday is the first day of the tournament.
Tell Mike Woodson that doesn't count.
Okay, but Thursday's the first day of the tournament.
Before we're gonna have plenty of college basketball talk coming on later in the show. Before we get into that, I want to talk about a tweet that came out last night, and I love the NFL. It's awesome. I love the era we live in with social media, where just at any given moment something can happen that just sends ripple effects throughout the world. Right? Baker Mayfield
unretiring.
Tom Brady unretiring on Selection Sunday is one of them. Baker Mayfield sending out a cryptic message last night.
Oh, that wasn't cryptic.
He didn't come out and say that he's done in Cleveland, but he's done in Cleveland, right?
Yeah,
whether that's for Deshaun Watson or Case Keenum. Baker Mayfield, I think, has taken his last snap in a Cleveland Browns uniform. That's how I read that message last night.
Yeah, I also read it that Baker Mayfield, for all of his talent, has got the worst rabbit ears of any quarterback in the NFL. Hey, buddy, this is part of your job. This is part of the business. Rumors are going to continually fly about what teams are going to do and what they're not going to do, and nobody really is secure and safe. For crying out loud, the Packers and Aaron Rodgers have been going back and forth about moving on from each other for 3 seasons now. You're Baker Mayfield. He overplayed his hand here, Baker did. He got upset that they were going to court Deshaun Watson. He got upset that he wasn't going to be named the unanimous starter for this team going forward, and decided to send out a tweet like a scorned lover of telling the world that he's thanking Cleveland for everything and that he's moving on. This was a bad play by Baker Mayfield because none of this stuff is set in stone yet. Cleveland hasn't done anything yet, and he's going to have egg on his face if he has to go back to Cleveland and take a snap. Unless he's going to come out overtly now and say, I want to be traded, I'm not playing anymore in Cleveland, then he's going to look ridiculous if Cleveland doesn't get what they want. Look, San Francisco did this same thing before the draft last year, right? They gave away all this draft capital to move up and get Trey Lance, the quarterback of their future. Who started week 1 last year? Who started in the NFC Championship game last year? His name was Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy didn't send out a tweet and didn't send out any messages going, oh my God, it's time for me to move on in San Francisco. Thank you so much. No. He put his head down, went to work, played better football, and guess what? Took his team to the NFC Championship game. And guess who's starting right now week 1 again? Theoretically, it's probably Jimmy Garoppolo. So, yeah, it's just Baker, I think, made a terrible decision in what he did. I don't know who is advising him. I don't know if he talked to his agent. I'm sure that if he didn't talk to his agent, they're talking now. But this was bad. And because Baker is now lessening his value more than anything, right? He's got to find a home. The Browns don't have to move on from him. He's got to find somewhere to go if he wants to leave.
Yeah. Anytime you go into the Notes app, it's never a good thing. But you brought up this comparison, so it just made me think I would be upset and I'd feel some kind of way if my girl went and had dinner with another guy. Not for any, just it's like an interview. I'd be a little upset by that too, and I think you would as well. So I think Baker has every right to feel some kind of way about it. But I do agree.
And how you execute your feelings are 2 different things. I'm not saying he doesn't have a right to
I'm not going in the Notes app after that, though.
Right.
I might send off a couple texts. To handle it privately, but I'm not going to the Notes app. But.
Amen.
We have a lot to get to on today's show. A lot of college basketball. We're going to bring on Jim Root to talk a little bit about this bracket as the clock ticks as we get closer to these first round games. We're going to do some NBA talk, finish things off with our play of the day. So without further ado, let's bet it. Before we bring on Jim Root, I want to talk about a little game that we're going to play here because people at Pickswise love how you and I go back and forth, right? We have a little bit of a banter here. So here's what we're going to do. We made up a game here, or our producers made up a game here. We're going to split the bracket in half. I get the left side, so I get the West and the East regions, and you get the South and Midwest, okay? We're going to pick 5 teams from our side of the brackets.
It's good to know that they gave you the side with the champion on it, but that's good. Thank you. I appreciate it.
I agree. I did not make this. I did not choose. This was bestowed upon me. And here's how we're going to break down the points here, because you want to pick upsets here, because you're going to get 1 point for your team to win, 1 point for your team to cover the spread, 1 point for your team with a higher seed to cover the spread, and 1 point for the higher seed winning outright. Okay.
Higher seed meaning higher number, so lower seed.
Right. So, I mean, and we see how some of
You
these
get
things
you get a point if you pick a 13 over a 4 or a 12 over a 5.
Exactly. So you get an additional point, and you get a point if that team covers, and another point if that 13 beats the 4. Or you get it. You get what I'm saying. And we got to ride these 5 teams throughout the tournament. So when they're done, we're done, and we're gonna see who comes out on top. I mean, I already know what's gonna happen here, but you start off. Tell me which 5 teams you are looking at on your side of the bracket here.
Well, it's good to know that you're already conceding that I'm going to beat you at this. So I'm glad that you know what's going to happen. So it's a fait accompli at this point. But just given based off the scoring system and getting a point for a win, the more wins you get, the more likely you are to move on. If you get another point to cover the spread, yes. So I think just based off the rules of this game, I would tell you it's not that great to pick too many lower seeded teams, although I do think there will be a little bit more chaos than normal here in the first round. But on the right side of the bracket in the South region, obviously, I'm taking Arizona as they will end up in the Elite Eight. I'm going to take Tennessee as well. I've been backing the Volunteers all year long. They've been pretty good to me. I've been good to them. I will follow them along the line. I will take Kansas as well. And then I will take Miami as a 10 seed. I think that Miami has a very fortunate lower portion of their bracket into the Sweet 16. If they get past USC, they'll probably take on Auburn, who's extremely vulnerable. Miami has been a little bit more upstart than people give them credit for. So I will take the Hurricanes. And then my lowest seeded team, which I am expecting an upset in round 1, Chattanooga, the 13 seed. In fact, I would tell you here, Glaze, there are going to be a lot of 13-4 upsets this year in my estimation. I think there's only 1 4 seed that's safe. Conversely, I think there's only 1 5 seed that is in trouble. Usually the 12-5 upsets are the big ones. I think this year it's going to be the 13-4 upset that are the big ones.
Okay. I don't mind a lot of your selections. That's interesting. Okay. Well, I'm going to start things off with one of the teams that I believe is going to pull off one of those 13-4 upsets that you're talking about here in the West region. That is Vermont.
Catamounts, baby.
A very interesting Vermont team that we'll be talking about later on in the show. I'm a little nervous because it seems like it's kind of like a public dog and everyone's kind of on Vermont. And I'm kind of nervous about that. But I really like how Vermont kind of goes about their business. I've actually watched more Vermont basketball than I care to admit because I, live around here and, watch a little UMBC every now and then. And, so we don't need to get into that here. But I like that Vermont team a lot. Also in the West, this is interesting. I want to talk about this. Memphis. So I think that they're going to win their first matchup, but then they got that matchup against Gonzaga, and that's going to be really interesting to me because Penny Hardaway's got a lot of NBA talent on that Memphis roster, and he's also got some bigs that I think could give Gonzaga a little bit of trouble. I think they got some guys. I mean, everyone's high on Gonzaga for fair reasons, but just every year Gonzaga just seems to just have a little bit of a letdown in the tournament. So I'm liking Memphis there, and I'm also looking at Michigan State, and I'm preparing myself to be hurt a little bit with that one, but. For whatever reason, I don't know if it's just I don't get caught up in the whole March, Izzo, like all that thing. It's just something about them not having any stars, it being just a complete team. They're a little sketchy, scrappy. I don't know. I like how the bracket's kind of setting up for them too. Because could they beat Duke? I think Duke's overrated. I mean, Duke should not be a 2. They could beat Duke.
We should be asking isn't can they beat Duke? It's can they beat Davidson? And the answer is no.
We'll talk about that later on in the show. We will talk about that. So that's 3. Okay, you're gonna like this one. My play of the day last night. Indiana. I could not love Indiana more. I don't love that their plane didn't take off until 4 a.m. this morning and they have to play tomorrow night. Don't really love that in Portland, by the way. So time change, all that they're gonna have to deal with. But that's another scrappy team. Strong defensively. Trace Jackson Davis is playing well. We'll talk more about Indiana, I'm sure, because I'm not sure how Jim Root's going to feel about that one.
No,
and then the fifth team, the champion, Kentucky. I don't even need to go into it. So those are my 5 teams. Let's bring on Jim Root now and break this down here. And let's explain the game to him before we get in here, because I want to get his thoughts on kind of what we're doing here. Jim, we are picking 5 teams that we're riding with throughout the tournament. We get a point for the team to win, a point for the team to cover the spread, a point for the team with a higher seed, if they are the higher seed, to end up covering the spread, and another point if they are a higher seed, win outright, right? So there's a chance to get 4 possible points. My 5 teams.
You got to clarify. When you say higher seed, you mean the higher number. They're actually the lower seeded team.
Right, the higher number. Right,
lower seeded team.
Yeah.
So again, you get an extra point if a 13
if the
covers
13
or 13 wins outright over a 4.
We broke the bracket in half. I get the West and the what is that, West and South?
No, you get
West
the
and
West.
and East.
I get the South and the Midwest.
My 5 teams: Kentucky, Michigan State, Indiana, Memphis, Vermont, and Zeno's 5 teams: Arizona, Tennessee, Kansas, Miami, Chattanooga.
I'm intrigued. Right as I got on, I heard you talking Davidson, Michigan State. I'm a Davidson guy, though. So unfortunately, I'm signing.
I know. I saw that in the rundown. So we can.
Can I just put this out there now before we even get to plays? I've already got, Jim, listen to this, a 3-team money line parlay between Loyola Chicago, Davidson, and Colorado State, as Michigan, Michigan State, and Ohio State are all out in the first round. Paying at plus 720, take it to the bank.
I'm kind of a fan of that, especially with the rumors percolating about Michigan's potential player availability issues. Devontae Jones rumored to be having a concussion. That was the one I was most torn on of that group. But I fully agree on Davidson, fully agree on Loyola Chicago. So as long as Colorado State gets there, which I'm starting to think they will, I'm in. Big Ten last year struggled. They'll struggle again. Michigan
getting 2 points? Come on. It's free money.
That's wild.
It's free money.
Well, let's just get right to it then, because this segment, properly named in the rundown here, Cinderella or Cinder Block.
We're talking about that, by the way. That's a great
that are 10 to 16 seeds that some people may be looking at as Cinderellas, and we're going to tell you if they're Cinderellas or Cinder Blocks. So, Jim, you want to talk about Davidson? I mean, you know how I feel about it, but sell the people on Davidson.
Yeah, it's the draw too. The draw I love for them. Davidson in general, a team that is a completely lethal offense, 5 shooters on the floor almost all times. Their wings are ridiculous. Like, you have to track them all over screens, all over the floor with all the off-ball movement they have in Bob McKillop's motion offense. And then the draw. Yeah, I just think Michigan State is limping to the finish line. The website Shot Quality grades out games based on the shots you got. They lost 12 of their final 13 games if you just go by the shot quality score. So I think they are really struggling down the stretch. That's a winnable game. And then Duke in the second round, I just see a lot of comparisons to the Virginia Tech game that Duke just lost. An offensive execution team that could maybe be overwhelmed athletically, but Duke's defense just doesn't have it right now. Down the stretch, they were bad. So I'm riding with the Wildcats. I mean, getting all the way to the Elite 8 might be tough, but they can shoot over the top of Texas Tech or anybody that comes out of there. So I've just been really impressed with this team, despite the poor final minute against Richmond in the A-10 title game.
Clay, you know, it's interesting. When you took,
I got a question for Jim.
Okay.
Hold on, because we all know that I'm, Michigan State guy here. I got the green hoodie on, so maybe, But what is Davidson going to do? Michigan State, the best defensive team at defending the 3-point in the Big Ten this year, right? So what are they going to do when they can't knock down those threes? Because they're not going to be able to go inside on Michigan State. They don't have the size.
I think they might be able to. Their big Austrian big man, Brajkovic, he can play in the post. And Michigan State's rotations are so weird. Like they'll play one guy for 2 minutes and they'll get him out. Izzo just doesn't seem to know exactly what he wants in terms of his big man rotations. And part of what makes Davidson hard to guard is like they get threes from every spot on the floor. Michigan State was awesome taking away the 3 against Purdue. But that's, they have a big man that's going to anchor the paint every time. And Brajkovic, the guy I mentioned, he can step out and knock down threes at almost 40%. So I think the versatility of the lineup, the fact that they get threes from all over, makes them a little bit of a tougher cover than basically all the Big Ten teams that Michigan State played.
Gotcha. I was going to say this before, Glaze. You mentioned Memphis was one of the teams that you picked. And it's weird, like the seeding, if Memphis was on a 10 line and Davidson was on the 9, which I don't think anybody would really make a big stink about, right? I wouldn't be as high on Davidson, and Memphis, in my opinion, on the bottom half of that bracket would be in the Elite 8. Because I think that they could handle Duke easily. I think that they would move on through the bottom half of that bracket as opposed to having to play Gonzaga in their second game, which is a much, much, much tougher draw for the Memphis Tigers. It's just, that one line in the seeding makes all the difference as far as how the rest of the bracket shakes out.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, before I get into my play, my Cinderella maybe for here, why don't you tell the people on Vermont? Talk about your Catamounts.
Well, look, I mean, this is a very senior-laden team, right? They are top 60 in offense in the country. They score the hell out of the basketball at 75 points per game. They're top 10 in defense in America. And this is a team that just has great shooting, nearly 50% from the floor. And when you go down their schedule, and granted, you could say, hey, it's the America East, but this wasn't a team that was like scoring 68 and 75 in games. This was a team that was scoring like 85 and 90 on a routine basis. They are not scared of this moment at all. And what I think is really interesting, and I think the committee does this a lot on purpose, they try to find two teams to put together that either have very similar styles or completely contrasting styles. And they can run with Arkansas. In fact, they probably can outrun Arkansas. Vermont's going to be real trouble. And as soon as this line came out at just 5, I knew that Arkansas was in real trouble, especially when you look at all of the other 4 seeds and what they are favored by and where they are. I mean, I think to me, this is a huge sign that Arkansas may be in for the fight of their life and could be one and done here in the tournament.
Well, I don't think they want to run with Arkansas, right? Like their thing is they slow it down and they're just super efficient offensively. So I think that's going to be the issue for Arkansas there. But I like that pick. Obviously, Vermont, one of my teams there. All right, let me talk to you guys about Indiana, because nothing's sexy this time of year, right? Nothing's pretty. It's all ugly. Indiana, I was all aboard until I saw a tweet just a couple minutes ago that their plane didn't take off until 4 a.m. and they had to go from Dayton to Portland and play tomorrow night. Don't know how I feel about that right now, but my analysis for this Indiana team, I'm going to just give it out here. They're one of the better defensive teams in the country, right? And I think that this time of year, that's super important. And when I look at what they could potentially have to face down the road, just look at last night. People were maybe doubting how they'd be able to defend Wyoming. And my handicap for looking at why I picked Indiana yesterday was they faced Kofi Cockburn, figured out how to shut him out. Figured out how to beat Zach Edey and Purdue. They figured out how to defend Jaden Ivey and kind of, I don't want to say beat, but they figured out ways to win those kinds of games to go against that kind of talent. So I just, when I look at these teams and, you're throwing out names of guys that they're going to have to face down the road, it's like, are they Zach Edey and Jaden Ivey? Are they Kofi Cockburn? No, and they figured those guys out. So I like what Mike Woodson and Indiana do defensively, and offensively. Obviously, the shots weren't falling for him last night. I think they eventually could, but the big reason why I'm backing Indiana is Trace Jackson Davis and that Indiana defense. Jim Root, am I an idiot? What are your thoughts on? Yes, okay. Zeno says yes.
I won't call you an idiot. I prefer St. Mary's in that first round.
Yes, St. Mary's, please.
Yeah. But why?
Because their defense is better than Indiana's.
Yeah, St. Mary's, I think, is a better version of Indiana and Wyoming. Like all 3 of those teams play through the post offensively, and I just think St. Mary's is better at it, and they have the best guard. Tommy Kuzi emerged into a star down the stretch. He was like mid-major Steve Nash out there in the West Coast, and Xavier Johnson's been really good for Indiana lately. I don't fully trust him against a team that's about as well coached as anyone in the country. And look, so you're mentioning the teams that Indiana figured out. St. Mary's blew out Gonzaga. Like they figured that game out. So I'm kind of leaning towards the Gales there, laying 2.5, laying 3, which that would obviously not be great for the Indiana path there. But I just trust the St. Mary's team wholly. They never beat themselves. They're so disciplined.
I mean, and that's the thing. Like last night in that game, I think it was like 7 minutes left in the second half. Indiana wasn't even shooting 40%. They were shooting, I think, 17% from 3. The only reason that they had a lead is because Wyoming had 16 turnovers in the game to that point in time. Like Wyoming outshot Indiana last night. That's one of those games where Indiana scraps its way through it. Statistically, it's ugly as hell, but they're just going to run into a much more superior opponent, a team like St. Mary's. They can't shoot 17% from three and less than 40% from the field against the St. Mary's defense and expect to win that game. They won't get to 60 against St. Mary's.
Just got confirmation, by the way, Devontae Jones did not travel with Michigan, out with a concussion. So I would imagine that Colorado State line is likely about to move. He's pretty key. He's been awesome for them lately, too.
And Michigan, before that news came out, a team that Zeno and I were both kind of bailing on anyway. I think I wrote in the rundown, don't bother unpacking. So, Zeno, why don't you tell the people why we're not on Michigan in any way, shape, or form?
Bye, Felicia. There's an argument that Michigan shouldn't even be in this tournament, and I certainly understand it. And it's crazy to think that, this Michigan team, which struggled so much. I mean, they got one win down the stretch. I think that was valuable. Was it over Iowa or was it Purdue? I forget who it was. But regardless, they had one win down the stretch that really kind of was the feather in the cap on their season, and enough that I think really pushed them over the top. But this is just
because they got smoked by Iowa.
Yeah, it was Purdue. Okay, you're right. Thank you. It was just one of these things where this Michigan team is not playing well. They're not very complete. I think they got a lot of holes. I told you every Big Ten team I think has warts. Michigan's warts are several. Defensively, I don't really know if there's one player on Michigan I trust to truly take over a game. I don't like this spot against a Colorado State team that plays up and can move. I think it's a bad draw for Michigan. Had they gotten somebody else, had they gotten an Iowa State kind of draw as a 6-11 seed, I thought it might have been a little bit more favorable for them. But nonetheless, I'm all over Colorado State. As soon as that number came out and they were a dog, I loved it.
All right, Jim, which team are you fading as we're looking at these opening round games?
My cinder block, I guess I would say here
yes.
is UAB. I think that's a team I was fairly interested in backing before the draw came out, but then Houston's just a really tough matchup. Pretty underseeded if you care about predictive analytics. They just didn't really have the quad one wins to be higher than a 5 seed. But there's a reason they're laying 8 to a really, really good 12 seed. And they're basically a better version of UAB, the physicality that they can get after on the glass. I trust Houston quite a bit more. The coaching edge tilts heavily towards Houston and their game planning. And one kind of small note that I think matters, UAB's best player, Jelly Walker, he's a big-time launcher from deep. He'll take 30-footers. But Houston played against him in conference play. He was at Tulane prior to transferring to UAB. So I think they have a bit of a scouting report on him. They know how to eliminate him and what frustrates him. I think that's going to be an edge for Houston. So I just don't see UAB being the Cinderella team there.
Everyone loves UAB too, and they love Jelly Walker. That's for sure. Yeah. All right, let's give out some plays that we're looking at in the first round, Zeno. I'll start here because a game I'm looking at, Jim. I'm looking at this Virginia Tech team catching a point against Texas, and I'm feeling like I got to ride with the Hokies, right? Like this just feels like an ACC champion that, for whatever reason, is just being very, very disrespected here in this spot here. First of all, with their seeding, and then catching a point against a Texas team that I don't think is very good.
Yeah, the seeding kind of indicates that they might not have been in if they had not beaten Duke, which is a little surprising. And this is a team that's, I mentioned the predictive rankings, the Ken Palms, the Bart Torviks, they're finally playing up to where they've been ranked all year. They've been in like the top 30 the whole season, despite not winning as many games. But now they're hot, and Texas is a team I've been out on. I watch them, and they don't pass the eye test. They just have some dysfunction offensively. And then after their exit in the Big 12 tournament, Chris Beard basically said that these guys think they have all the answers. They're kind of playing by their own rules on the floor. I don't like that. The way Virginia Tech's coming together versus the way Texas seems to be coming apart. I'm with you. I love the Hokies there.
Zeno, you got anything for Jim?
Yeah, I'm going to look to a 3 seed that I think is in big trouble, and that is the Wisconsin Badgers against Colgate. The first thing that stood out to me, Jim, was the fact that if you look at Tennessee, Texas Tech, and Purdue, all 3 of those teams are laying at least 15, if not 16 and a half points or more. And Wisconsin opened up as an 8-point favorite. It's now down to 7.5. Why? Because the smart bettors know that Colgate is going to give Wisconsin a run for their money. 46th in offense in America, nearly 75.5 points per game, number 11 in effective field goal percentage, second in the nation in 3-point shooting. They defend the 3 well. Most importantly, they take care of the basketball. top 70 in America in fewest turnovers per game. This is a Colgate team that's very seasoned. I get they come from the Patriot League. It's not exactly like it's a high-scoring, high-powered conference, but still, Colgate is the class of that conference. And this is a contrasting style for a Wisconsin team that may not be able to keep up with them. I also like a play here. Colgate, first to 15 points in this game. If they can get out early and force Wisconsin to chase,
they're first to 15. Advantage. You say first to 15?
You've never seen the first to 15 bet?
I know. I
love this.
Oh my gosh. I've seen it, but I didn't know people actually did these.
Oh, these are great. Yeah.
I'm addicted to them. So yeah, they're fantastic, especially in the NCAA tournament.
I mean, but all the reason why I just said for a team like Colgate, look, if they knock down 2 threes in the first 3 minutes, they're almost halfway to 15. Like it's that simple. When you get a great 3-point shooting team, as long as they make their first 2 threes, you're golden. But this Colgate team, I think, presents real problems for Wisconsin, Jim.
Yep, I love this too. This is the one, another one. It's in Milwaukee, and people I think are losing their minds about Wisconsin playing a quasi home game. I don't care about that. I think every other fan base that's in Milwaukee, the Purdue's, the Texases, they're going to side with Colgate, especially it's a late game. Yeah, the fact that they can shoot is the ultimate equalizer. You hit a couple quick ones, you get out early to that, hopefully like a 15-10 lead. And Wisconsin does not lay over them athletically. I think that's huge. That's what caught up to Colgate last year, as Arkansas ended up overwhelming them. That's not Wisconsin's game. So yeah, I love that they got this draw. I have them beating Wisconsin outright, so I'm with you.
And oh, by the way, you mentioned Arkansas. Did you see Musselman already complaining about where his first round game is in Buffalo, which is only like a couple of hours from you? Hey, Rabbit Ears, man, go out and beat a 13 seed. Like, this is also one of the other reasons I love Vermont, because already they are in Arkansas's heads and their coaches chirping about it publicly.
All right, Jim, I got one more for you that I just looked this up as I'm trying to fill out my bracket here. I'm kind of talk me in or out of this. I'm kind of on San Francisco. I'm kind of feeling like San Francisco could pull this off against Murray State. It just feels like too many people are talking about this Murray State team, and not enough people are talking about how young this Murray State team is. And if I'm hearing people talk about Murray State, you know who else is hearing people talk about Murray State? Murray State. And when you're talking about young guys, tournament, not that this just seems like a good spot, and that's a good San Francisco team. I think that's a tough. They're going to be a tough out.
Yeah. So here's my 2 reservations. They are young, but Tevin Brown and KJ Williams were both on the team that played and beat Marquette as an 11 seed. Like, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago with Ja Morant. So they've got some solid experience. And then on San Francisco, I don't think, or there's a chance we won't see Yayan Misalski, their best big man. It's been like, I come out and reported that he's going to play. I saw him at the WCC tournament and he was limping. The knee did not look good. Okay. So I'm concerned that even if he plays, it's not going to be anywhere near full health. And yeah, he's their best big man, best rim protector, a pretty good passer from the big man spot. So that's got me a little spooked and has me leaning towards the Racers.
You talked me out of it, Murray State.
Hey, Jim, let me ask you about the one team we've talked a lot about here on Let's Bet It, and that's the Providence Fires getting South Dakota State. It's not a great matchup here with the Jackrabbits, number 2 in scoring, number 1 in effective field goal percentage, number 1 in 3-point shooting. I know South Dakota State's really bad defensively, and this is where I talk about contrasting styles, because what is Providence really good at? Defense and keeping the pace in their favor. But this number came out really short at 2, and it's sort of a red flag for me. I think 3 of the 4 seeds are in trouble. The only safe 4 seed I really see is UCLA.
Yep. Yeah. I'm with you on this one. Providence, the fraud and lucky stuff is there. I get it. This one's more about South Dakota State just being awesome. It's not really a shade at Providence thing. I think so. Last year, Oral Roberts had a worse defense than this South Dakota State team, and they won 2 games. The offense was just deadly, and that's the same deal with the South Dakota State team. I think they can battle more in the paint than people are giving them credit for. And yeah, the fact that they can knock down shots from everywhere, the execution is mega impressive. The 3-point percentage jumps off the page, but they score inside too. Like they create really high quality shots. And that's the difference maker for me. So I'm nervous if it's close late because Providence does have the late game swagger, the confidence that they're going to pull it out. But I'm with you on the Jackrabbits.
And real quick, Chattanooga, Illinois. Chattanooga, another complicated team, well-rounded too.
Yeah, I'm picking Illinois. Chattanooga doesn't run any pick and roll, like almost no ball screens, and that's kind of the weakness of Illinois. They face the most of it in the entire country because people want to move Kofi around. It's what Loyola did last year. And Chattanooga doesn't really have that in their DNA, but they're just too good to get run out. So against the spread, I'm still leaning towards the Mocs.
Mm-hmm. All right, Jim, tell us about some plays that you're on this first round.
Yeah, we briefly mentioned it, kind of touched on it. Loyola Chicago, I love them as a pick 'em against Ohio State, or even a -1 if it's up to there at your book. Loyola is experienced in the tournament. I know their coach is in his first year, but he was a big part of the staff last year that made the Sweet 16. I think the matchup's great. Lucas Williamson is the perfect defender to throw at Malachi Branham, the freshman creator for Ohio State. The Buckeyes have injuries. Zed Key dealing with an ankle issue. Kyle Young has a concussion, may or may not play. So add all that together, and I love Loyola there. And then the other one is Longwood, +17, a big dog here against Tennessee. But we've talked about Colgate, Vermont, South Dakota State. There's a lot of underdogs in this tournament that can shoot. Like top 15 in the country in three-point percentage. Longwood, I believe, is 6th. They are ridiculous from beyond the arc. They have a couple transfers from bigger conferences that allows them to compete a little bit here. I'm worried they get smashed on the glass by Tennessee, but I think they make enough shots to stay inside that 17 number.
Like it. All right. Well, as always, Jim, thank you for your time, and I'm sure we will be seeing plenty more of you as we get through this tournament. You have a column up on the Pickswise website right now?
Yeah, I wrote about Final Four futures, so take a look at that. I will have some best bets for the first round. Gonna write that probably the next 90 minutes to 2 hours. Get that up on the site. Have a few picks for Thursday, Friday. So keep an eye out for that.
Love it. Put you on the spot here. National champion, Kentucky? Yeah.
No, I'm going Gonzaga. I would have picked Arizona if Kirk Crease's ankle didn't look like a watermelon or a grapefruit at this point, but that gives me a little bit of nervousness, so I'll go Gonzaga.
Gonzaga. All right. Well, Jim, we'll get you out of here, and look forward to that article getting up on the Pickswise website within a couple hours.
Yep. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me.
Take care, Jim.
All right, so let's move on. Talk some NBA here. One play I'm looking at is actually my play of the day. Shocker.
Yeah. Well, I'm listen. Your play of the day is in line with my play of the day, and it's also the game that I have handicapped for the Pickswise website here that'll go up right after the show, and that's the Hawks and the Hornets here, and the Hornets laying 2.5. Look, pivotal game between these two teams, right? Just a half game separates them in the standings. Could be deciding home court advantage in that play-in tournament between the 9 and the 10 seeds. So from that standpoint, with the Hawks winning 2 of the first 3 regular season, Charlotte has a huge motivation to win this game and tie up the season series. However, you're looking at an Atlanta team that's been terrible on the road this year, 12-21 straight up, 10-23 against the spread. Also, Hawks are 6-15 ATS as a road underdog and 12-21 against the number after a win. This is a short enough number. Hawks going to be without John Collins tonight, one of their better defenders against the Charlotte offense. That's number 2 in the NBA in points per game. This is a short enough number for me to back the Hornets here at home.
Oh, I like that. A game that I'm kind of just eyeing right here on FanDuel. Seems a little suspect to me. Mavericks laying 2 points against the Nets. This is in Brooklyn, so no Kyrie Irving tonight. That number, that's a little off considering how high everyone is on the Nets right now. It seems like the books are almost begging you to take the points with the Nets. So you know what you got to do in that situation, right? Land with the Mavericks.
Yeah, back-to-backs are always tough.
Back-to-backs, and back-to-backs without, one of your best players. Also, tough spot. And back-to-backs too could be a spot where KD doesn't play. We got to wait for that news to come. So maybe sit that one out and wait for some news here. All right. Before we get into our plays of the day, we got a 3-star on the site you want to give out?
Yeah, let me see what we got here. I'm always delinquent when I'm like in the number 2 chair of who that is, but I got a couple here. Let's go to the NBA. Philip Tolmick laying 8.5 with the Timberwolves at home against the Los Angeles Lakers. And why not? Betting against the Lakers has been quite the profitable quite the profitable endeavor this year. So Timberwolves -8.5.
It's got to change at some point, right? Like they got to eventually catch the books. Got to eventually catch up to the Lakers. But what are you on?
All right. In that same Hawks Hornets game, Terry Rozier has been on fire as of late. His total 23.5. I'm going to go over that. In fact, he's averaging 23.5 in his last 10 games. And if you look at some of the middle of the road defenses Rozier has faced over his last 10 games, he scored 30 against OKC, 25 against New Orleans, 30 against Brooklyn, 31 against San Antonio, put 33 up against a bad Detroit defense, even scored 27 against a really good Cleveland defense. Again, Hawks going to be without John Collins tonight, one of their better defenders. Rozier should have plenty of open looks and clear his total of 23.5.
We are all in on Terry Rozier here today because I am also looking at him. I like Terry over 3.5 threes plus money on FanDuel. Hawks are one of the worst teams defending the three this season. Third worst opponent 3-point percentage this season. And Terry's gone over this number in 5 of 6 games this month and 3 of the Hornets' last 4 home games. So I think that there is great value at plus 108 for Terry Rozier to knock down 4 or more threes. So love that. Love that.
I'm rooting for you.
Scary Terry, our guy. I mean, yeah. I mean, you're rooting for me for sure. I mean, I guess I'm rooting for you too, right? I guess.
Theoretically, yeah. You can get yours without me getting mine, but I hope neither one happens.
Yeah, I think that you need me more than I need you.
That is correct, which, Glaze kind of describes our relationship.
Uh-oh. Yeah. We got a question in the chat for you, Zeno. Question in the chat about the Blue Jackets Senators first period over. You got any thoughts? Any thoughts on that?
It was one of them that I had eyed. No lie. Blue Jackets, again, third in the NHL in first period overs. I think that there are some other viable matchups out there. Devils and Flames is a good one. Bruins, and they are playing Columbus tonight, right? And then the Wild against, I want to say it was Ottawa, I think is the other one out there. I got to double check the schedule. But
Jackets, Senators.
Jackets, it's Blue Jackets and Ottawa. And then it's Wild and Bruins, right? So those are the 3 first period overs that I was eyeing up tonight as well, along with the Devils and the Flames being the third one. So, hey, look, round robin all 3 of them if you really want to. But if you're asking me between those, Blue Jackets, Senators would be number 1. Devils, Flames would be number 2.
Love it. Love it. All right. Well, good luck with your plays tonight, Zeno, and good luck to everyone out there. We'll be back tomorrow at 10 a.m.